Prior to the start of the season, if you asked anyone associated with the men's hockey team what constituted success, the answer would have simply been making the playoffs. This edition of the Panthers has achieved that and much more this season. Now the second season begins, and the team will be up against its biennial opponent, the St. Mary's Huskies. And today, Beau Ford and I sit down to tee up what is sure to be a very intriguing and exciting matchup in this quarterfinal series. Well, Beau, you and I talk a lot. The season's short. Before you know it, playoffs are here. Well, guess what? Time has come. Playoffs are beginning here shortly, and I think it's important that we look back at a team or look back at this series here, and I think in order to look ahead, I think we have to look back at what the series was between these two teams. Seemingly perennial opponents. Seems that we get St. Mary's a lot in the playoffs, so maybe if we kind of set the stage here, maybe let's go back through 5 games played. Not a lot to choose. It started with game 2 or 3?
3, yeah.
Game 3 of the season with the SMU game. I missed it. You were there. What did you see?
Yeah, it was one of those games where, you know, it was early on in the season. We didn't really know what this group would entail and how things would look. It was a very tight hockey game. St. Mary's kind of took it to UPEI in the first period. They were coming in off a game against UNB, which was a tight game, and everybody kind of left here and felt really good about the product that was on the ice. You know, a 3-0 loss to St. Mary's, all 3 goals, 2 shorthanded goals, and an empty net goal. So it was one of those things where special teams kind of became a factor. You were trying to get used on the power play, you know, different guys out there, different looks than what we're used to over the last couple of years. So seems like such a long time ago, and both groups have come so far since that first day, but a lot of guys getting their feet wet in that first game, and you give up that first shorthanded goal, and it kind of took the momentum out of the sails. You know, they came back with a push, fell short, but again, 2 shorthanded goals, an empty net goal, the biggest margin of victory in the season series between these two teams. But it just seems, we talk about the season going by so fast, and it's an exciting time of year. That seems like so long ago. You get the Christmas break in there. So many things have happened since then, and it's just been a great season series between these two teams.
100%. So game 2 and 3, the second and third game between these two teams, were both on the road. So similar to that game 1, Panthers got behind a little bit early. Caleb Pearson gets a late goal to make it 2-1. Declan McDonnell ends up with another empty netter, so that's 2 empty net goals. You know, they were really kind of the difference. 3-1 game, both of them including with an empty netter. The game before Christmas was really an interesting one for me. You know, you look at it, it was land and close. It was odd for several ways, or different in some ways. Landon Clough comes back from an injury, gets a really nice goal for his first goal of the year. Leon Denny scores a goal in that game, right? The Panthers were down. They clawed their way back into it. They ended up losing it in overtime on a goal by Andrew Coxhead. And I still remember in that game, Andrew scored it, goes into the corner, and who's there meeting them but this throng of sailors who were in town and provided an atmosphere that was like none other that you would see at a college game. I was watching that game, and I know Mike Burkhouse talked about what the atmosphere was like. It was crazy, and they were there, they were having fun, and it was really it was like an English soccer league game. They were doing the chants and all that. So that was kind of an interesting game, and you know, it was a game that Joe Ranger was good in that first game. Jonah Capriotti was really good in that game as well too. So, you know, the first 3 games wasn't a whole lot to choose. Then they come back after Christmas, game 4. That was first game at home.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I think when I think back to that hockey game, 5 power play goals scored in that game, and of course the Panthers they scored 4 straight and found themselves up by 3. early goal in the third period, 14 seconds in, and he kind of felt really good about it. It was alumni weekend. There was good atmosphere around. He said, okay, this one might be, but the St. Mary's team, you can't never count them out, and they clawed back within one. And then, of course, that play with about 3 minutes left, the Panthers take 2 minors on the same play. They go down 5-on-3. St. Mary's ends up tying the hockey game. They get the 5-on-4 killed off, and then it goes as far as a shootout. That's the interesting thing about this. We talk about 3 games go to extra time. Yeah. St. Mary's has had 7 games go to overtime or a shootout. They're 6-1, so they're kind of a juggernaut when it comes to that. And Nathan Dunkley seals the deal in a shootout. Took 7 shooters on either side. Both teams scored in their first opportunity, and then it was kind of a long, drawn-out process where it was a goaltending battle. And Dunkley finds the winner for the Huskies, and they get the extra point in that one. Yeah,
and then the Road Warrior story, which was the Panthers in the second half, kind of continues with the 5th game. They go into St. Mary's. I would say, arguably, one of the Achilles' heels with this team has been starts in the second half. They've been slow out of the gate. That St. Mary's game was probably the perfect example. It was a game where both teams lost their top scorers. Declan McDonnell, 5-minute major on Caleb Pearson. Pearson's done for the game. McDonnell's done for the game. So you're taking your top scorers out of both teams. Panthers go down, they were awful. First period, they were awful. Didn't generate anything in the 5-minute power play. They're down 2-0. Landon Clough actually comes back. Noah Sador gets a goal. Landon Clough gets another one. Beauty set up by Mike Stubbs coming in to tie the game up. 3 goals in 26 seconds. Jonah Capriati again provides some late season acrobatics or late game acrobatics. They get to overtime. Or no, they end up securing the win. Of course, it was a beauty goal by Patty LeBlanc.
He's been really good against the Huskies this year.
Has he ever?
Yeah.
Really. And I mean, he walked in, the guy who's really become the 200-foot player, goes in and made it look pretty easy against a goalie like Jeremy Helbig, right? Breakaway from center ice, strips the puck, goes in, top corner. Bob's your uncle, just another day at the office. But again, the common theme with all these games, so tight. Not much to choose. Anything could have gone either way. Good goaltending, good opportunistic scoring, taking advantage of the power plays. It's going to be key in that sort of thing. So the series has been, I don't see a whole lot to choose, but if you look at it from maybe the UPEI side, Bo, what do you kind of see as maybe the keys for them if they're going to bring home victory in this series?
Well, to me, this series has a really different dynamic to it. Both teams come in the second half. They're really struggling on home ice. One win between the two teams on home ice when they're red hot on the road. So for me, that kind of your home ice advantage, like if somebody can take advantage of it and kind of flip the script there, it may be the biggest difference. If Smew can do it with home ice, or if the Panthers can do it here in game number 2. But we talk about in the playoffs, and we always talk about special teams being a huge factor. For the Panthers, their power plays struggled in the second half. Of course, you lose the big piece in Caleb Pearson, so you take that
7 power play
top
goals.
threat away from that top unit. But, for me, he's expected to return, and the power play has to get going. But for me, it doesn't come with scoring goals every time you're out there. It's about momentum in the playoffs and building off of that momentum, and that can be the difference in a playoff hockey game. So I think that from the power plays, yes, it's going to be nice to get on the board and get that power play rolling, but make sure that you have that momentum after a power play. Okay, we created a few opportunities, next man up mentality. Let's continue to build on that. Another thing that I see as a big factor here, and it comes with special teams and controlling your emotions, and we've heard about it a lot this season. Norman, you and I have talked about it a lot. The Panthers, they're young. We've heard it all year. If the Panthers want to win this series, that crutch has to go away. They have to move forward. It's playoff time. It's time to play when it matters. Doesn't matter if you're a first-year guy or a fourth-year guy. Panthers need to sink their claws into this series right off the hop. Get pucks in deep, be into the mixer, be tough to play against, control the emotions, and most importantly for me, if the Panthers want to win this series, they have to win the first 20 minutes of Game 1 at the Dauphiny Centre on Thursday night.
Good. Contrast that smooth, very veteran-laden team. They're returning 16 players from last year's squad that was here at the U Cup in March. And for me, I think there's probably a little bit of a redemption in mind for them. I think if you kind of ask maybe around the league, is there a team that underperformed overall? I think it might be the St. Mary's Huskies. I think they're a better team than what their record has been. I think you look at guys, you talked about Nathan Dunkley earlier, Justin McPherson, Jackson Bellamy. I love those players. I think they've underperformed this year, right? If you look at it, McDonnell, Coxhead, Ben Allison has had a great rookie season as well too. So they're kind of being led by the younger guys on a team that's really rookie laden. And of course, you got the back end. You've got that tandem in nets: Jeremy Helvig, Matty Welsh. Pick your poison, right? One goalie's 8 and 7, another goal is 7 and 8. Not much to choose in their goals against average. So you know that their back end is going to be strong. And to your point about doing it, you're going to have to make sure that they get in and they work them and try to create something against a very solid defense. And you and I have talked about their defense before. It's right up there with when you look at the depth that they have. So on paper, it really should be. It shouldn't be a contest, I don't think. Right? When you look at the veteran experience, when you look at the depth, when you look at all those factors. But as you and I know, the game's not played on paper. It has to be played within the 200 feet by 85 feet wide, or whatever the dimensions are. And it's played for 3 periods. I liked your point about being, starting it on time and getting out and getting at it earlier. And that's going to be important in terms of setting that tone for both of these teams. Right? So one of the things we like to do, we like to prognosticate. We like to make predictions about how the series is going to look. And we don't want to give any billboard material to either team, but really, we're just commentators. So we can voice our opinions and we can put it any way we want. So give me a prediction, Bo. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think there's a lot to look at in this series, and it's no question, Norm, the Panthers come into the season with limited expectations. It's a group that a lot of new faces came in, but again, that's where this stops. This isn't talked about again after today. And on the other side of things, we talked about St. Mary's underperforming, 16 guys returning. They were ranked second in the preseason rankings and had some first place votes too. So for me, for the Panthers, they're playing the role of David in this battle, where it's a David versus Goliath on paper, but as you say, it's played in the ice. I look at the goaltending, and we talk about, Capriotti and Joe Ranger have been so good. Helvig and Welsh are good. And I think that it doesn't mean who's going to outshine who in this series. It's going to come down to who's able to make that critical save at that key point in the hockey game to give your team a chance to win. Yeah. The other side, like Andrew Cox said, he drives the bus for me for St. Mary's. He's dangerous, so good. If he can drag if he can drag his team into the fire, the Panthers need to be able to match it, and that's where I'm going to look to a guy that's going to make his return at number 15. We've witnessed Caleb take his game to the next level last year at the U Cup, and we've watched him carry it over to this season. Such a dynamic player. For me, late in the season, the Panthers may have missed a little bit of his mojo there when he was injured. At times, it felt a little bit deflated. I think he can do what Andrew Cox has done for St. Mary's for UPEI. And, he's missed some time, and a lot of others hope that he can kind of jump right back in. But for me, for Caleb to be Caleb Pearson, the best that he's been, it's not going to be what shows up in the score sheet. It's going to be that 200-foot game.
Physical part.
Yes, that's where he's best, where he's hard on pucks all over the ice, driving his feet and bringing energy, dragging guys into the fire and say, okay, that top line just did it. We got to follow that up. As I said earlier, Panthers need to win the first period of this series. I think a lot of this short series can be decided in the first 20 minutes. I've went back and forth on this a lot, but I like a good David story, Norman, and I believe in this hockey club. I think it's going to go the distance. Going Panthers in 3 on the road as the old road dogs they become.
All right, there you have it. So for me, If you look back, I'm going to go back in history a bit. 2018, Smoo takes the series in 3. 2019, we play UDM. We don't play St. Mary's. 2020, pre-COVID year, Dawson Teed scores a late goal with 3 seconds left. Come back here for game 2. What happens in double overtime? Caleb Pearson scores late in the game to send it into overtime. Logan DeNoble ends it in double overtime. Tough loss coming out, a game that really could have gone either way. So you talk about looking historically, very tight series. 2021, no playoffs. 2022, what happens again? They come back in here, lose game 1, come back in here for game 2. Who throws the dagger? Former Charlottetown Islander Keith Getson, and comes in and makes it happen. So if you look at it historically between these two teams, the history has not been kind to the Panthers, right? The good part is
there's nobody here.
There's no one here that has that history, right? And has not played in association with it. So you don't have that kind of cloud hanging over the team that might have existed otherwise. So in terms of that's one of the beauty of newness, right? And having so many new players.
I thought about this part too, Norman. Just we talked about game 3. We didn't really know hey, it's playoff time now. You want to shine, you come on out here. You can quickly make an impact on the team where we get into playoff hockey. That's for sure.
For sure. So I'm with you, and I'm going to go a little bit further. I'm going to say the first 2 games are going to go into overtime. I think there's not going to be a team that's going to win on the road in this series. I'm saying the Panthers are going to win game 1 in overtime. Huskies are going to come in and take game 2 in overtime. And game 3 will be decided in regulation in favor of the green and white. So we're on the same page with that, Bo. And that's, of course, our partiality coming out.
Yeah.
No question. But we're here to have fun with that and to make predictions. I'll tell you one thing, though. I can predict one thing. This is going to be a really close series. And I really like the makeup of both of these teams. Tyler Noggle talks about St. Mary's being a team that gets it done by committee. They've shown that year throughout the course of the year.
Yep.
Their top scorers, Declan McDonnell, T14, he's tied 14. Then it drops down to Coxhead at 25, Ben Allison at 28. So if you're coming here looking for the superstar who's going to shine in this game, you're not going to find it. If you want to come in and find a team that plays cohesively, and that is depth from 1 to 4 and 1 to 12 up front, 1 to 6 on the defense with solid goaltending, that's the St. Mary's Huskies. And it'll be interesting to see how the experience matches up against the youth, who's going to take it. I think there's lots to be decided. It's going to start Thursday night, and back here on Sunday night, I tell you, if there's one hope I have, I hope the 1,300 seats in this Bell Alliance Center are occupied with fans.
Yeah, we obviously need a big-time home atmosphere here. We got to try and flip the script, as I said earlier, and try and get some momentum here on home ice. And I think that starts with a lively group in here. Come on out, students! Get out to the hockey game. The Old Faithful, come on out. We need a packed house here for game number 2, no question. And hey, if you want to head over to Halifax, I don't think anybody be turning your way at the door either.
Always a good reason to go to Halifax for a road trip.
Yeah.
Anyway, buddies, listen, we'll be here Saturday night. Thanks for chiming in.
Great to be here.
Go Panthers.
Go Panthers.